So today's webinar, very exciting. We have over 80 some people registered, and it is a very hot topic. We presented it at first in Nova Scotia at an HR conference, and a lot of people were very interested in it. And Jacqueline, I think you're online as well, so hi there. Then we presented it again in a couple other venues, and we realized, you know what? This is something we need to like share with the world. So here we are sharing this with the world. The reason we're doing this today is because we want to fulfill our mission of delivering practical solutions to as many organizations as possible. So oftentimes we will do something and, you know, there is really practical value to it, and we're not the type of consulting company or coaching company that sort of gives you a blueprint of, you know, building an airplane and, you know, good luck with your airplane building. We actually give you the how-to guide, and we support you through that journey. So today what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our webinar, and the purpose of today's session is really showing you where does the Huddle board fit into the broader operational excellence journey. So by operational excellence, we mean going from good to great at the end of the day. So you guys already do good work. It's about how do you jump to that next level, and Huddle board is one of the tools that helps you do that. We're going to talk about some of the leadership and cultural changes required as we move forward. Talk about what a Huddle board is, the different levels and types of Huddle boards, and we'll talk about the general understanding of Huddle boards based on our research, where we've asked lots of other organizations, because when we talk about Huddle boards, you know, a lot of people say, oh yeah, we huddle also, and so we realize that the PACE huddle is something a little bit different, and we have a certain number of levels and a very structured path to move through versus a general huddle that you have in your organization. We're going to talk about why you need to implement a Huddle board, discuss some typical challenges when implementing huddles, because it's not for the faint-hearted, really. It doesn't change your culture the first day you launch your huddle, right? So it's there's quite a few challenges that you have to deal with when you're implementing huddles. And then we're going to talk about the course to implement a level 1 huddle. So we are actually launching a course. It's a online hands-on course that has coaching, and it has training components that you can do from your own desk, and we're actually live like this in a more interactive session. Actually, we have limited seats, and we sort of coach you guys through actually doing it step by step and implementing a huddle. So that's pretty much, and if you stay till the end, because you always have to give something, if you stay till the end, we will give you a big discount on the course that's coming up. So that's pretty much what we're going to cover today, and go from there. So what I'll do is, Derek is our change management lead, and you know, before Derek jumps into his section, maybe we should just ask the audience, do a poll. So the poll is, what experience do you currently have with Huddle boards? So I'm just going to launch the poll right now. And so what experience do you currently have with Huddle boards? So poll open.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to get an understanding of where people are in their experience levels.
We'll keep it open. We have very good engagement today, which is excellent. So we're very excited. So we actually have 11% that currently use Huddle boards on a regular basis. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think we could probably close it. Yeah. So if you're part of the 10% that didn't get to vote, we're sorry. We kind of gotta keep going. But we had 90% of you voted. So 54% say none. They're very excited to learn more today, which is awesome. 29% say, well, I've kind of heard about Huddle board, but we're not really using it. 7% have previous experience, and 11%, do you see the results? Do they see the results? Yeah, right there. Okay, excellent. So you see the results right there. So the first section is basically covering off kind of, you know, whenever you do something, you need to have a purpose for doing it, right? So if you just say, oh, we're going to launch a huddle board, and you go out and do it, you're missing the why. And at a certain point, anything new that you implement, you know, it's exciting in the beginning, as Karen taught me, right, Karen? Everything is exciting in the beginning, but really, at the end of the day, it's about how do you sustain it, and how do you keep it alive, and how do you maintain it, how do you build that habit into the organization. So Derek's going to show you in the bigger picture, where does a level 1, which is an improvement huddle, fit into the bigger picture, and then I'll jump into sort of the different types of huddle boards and things like that. Does that make sense?
That's great.
Cool.
Okay, thanks, Neha.
Take it away. There you go.
All right, so as Neha mentioned, huddle boards are a key piece of the operational excellence journey, and I know a number of you who are on the call or on the webinar are actually working through your own operational excellence journey, and it's really about, as Neha said, going from good to great. So whether you're looking at implementing lean or some other type of continuous improvement, it's really about taking your organization to the next level. And I'm going to talk briefly about our model of excellence. So we have our critical to vision or critical to excellence framework, and it's really made up of 12 principles. I'm going to start with kind of the first couple principles, which are really about the planning phase. So we take you from planning, understanding your vision of success, your key objectives, making success measurable, putting measurements in place to understand where you are and where you're going, really understanding your problems and opportunities within the organization, and starting to get an idea of what types of projects you're going to take on. But as we start moving through our model of excellence, you will see that one of the key components, as we get to number 9, is engaging everyone in the journey. So this is not a step-by-step necessarily. These are principles that we feel are necessary to really achieve excellence within your organization. So some organizations have lit up all 12 of these. Most have, done 2 or 3 very well, but are working on the others. So when we talk about excellence and where huddle boards fit in, it's really the PACE huddle boards are about engaging everyone in the journey, connecting everyday actions to the strategy, and getting all your staff involved in coming up with or identifying problems and helping solve the problems. So that's really where the huddles fit into the overall journey.
And if you don't like the word problems, we love your problems. You can give them to us.
I've got a button on that says we love your problems. So.
That's Derek's button today. And really the reason for us introducing the Huddle Boards course on its own as a standalone piece is because a lot of organizations just don't have that basic communication engine. Like there just isn't. There's the team meetings that are kind of clunky, and there just isn't anything for ongoing basis. And when we've implemented it with our clients, we realized, you know what? If we actually change the success criteria, what a level 1 huddle does, which is not necessarily tying to strategy right away, just do some basic stuff, that makes a huge difference in the morale and engagement of an organization as well.
Absolutely. So moving from there, there are some key components in excellence, and we talk about these when we do our training, but they're a big part of the huddle board implementation as well. The number 1 is teamwork. So as you can understand, as you will understand more about the huddle board, it really is about teamwork, about working together with a group, getting information from everyone involved. Understanding the root cause, right? Not just looking at the symptoms and the things that you see as the problems, but getting down to the root cause. This is a key concept in excellence work. Eliminating waste using tools like lean and some of the lean tools, all about eliminating waste within your processes. Number 4 is making things visual. This is a key component in lean and also in huddle boards, and a lot of the work we do is making things visual, and you'll see that coming up. Respect for everyone involved, respect for your employees, respect for your employees' knowledge and skills and abilities. This is really a key component behind our PACE huddle boards, and you'll see that as we
move on. And I think respect for the organization's values and goals as well, absolutely. Right, Derek? So it's definitely respect all around. Respect is definitely goes, front, sideways, customers, everything. So that's a key component of of the way we implement and do any of our work.
That's a good point. And 6 being that focus on the customer. So really it's about driving value and delivering value to the customer. So everything has to tie back to your customer. So one of the big things in changing or moving towards operational excellence is that organizations need to understand that there's a cultural change that needs to happen, and really the leadership needs to change their behaviors in order to embrace the excellence journey. And even with huddle boards, leaders need to have some key leadership behaviors and skills for huddle boards to be successful. So we look at kind of traditional leadership and then leadership in an operational or an operationally excellent organization. So the traditional leadership, leaders are put in place generally because of their ability to solve problems and come up with solutions. Jumping to solutions and finding solutions is a key component of traditional leadership. We look at things a little bit differently when we coach for operational excellence. Often blaming and discipline and finger pointing has been part of traditional leadership, looking at who did what and putting discipline in place. That's often a form of leadership and management.
Oh, for sure. And I think that it's interesting, right? Because we just think about we have to discipline our employees, and that's just normal. Like that's normal thinking to say, oh yeah, that's part of the job. You have to discipline people. But it's kind of like, well, why is there a need to discipline? Maybe you should be a little curious about that, right? And we're not just going to leave you high and dry, which is giving you the from behaviors. We're going to show you what you need to transition to on the next slide as well.
The third one is just being uninvolved. You know, people used to talk about the corner office, right? The leader was in the corner office, and they often hid away there. Didn't really venture into the workplace a lot. And really that idea of individualism. There's my way, there's your way. You know, we can pick one of those and roll with it. That was kind of the traditional leadership. When you're going and leading for operational excellence, it's really more about understanding the problem, not necessarily jumping to solutions and focusing on getting to those root causes of the problem rather than just trying to solve something that you think is going to solve the problem initially. It's really about being curious and again, understanding what's going on and what all the root causes are and understanding what's really happening in your workplace. It's focusing on facts and data, not just opinions, right? Oftentimes we in traditional leadership, we hear things and we assume that those are right, but we don't necessarily look into the data to support whether a problem really is a problem.
You know, what I love about this is we have these little buttons, not that we're selling them or anything, but we have a saying that Norm Rudd, one of our knowledge exchange director, always says. He says, "In God we trust, all others bring data." Right? Yeah. So it's kind of transitioning the thinking to just looking at facts and making decisions based on facts and data.
All right. Yes, absolutely. Teamwork. It's about doing this together. It's not my way or your way, and as the visual shows here, it's follow me and we'll figure this out together. And the third thing is learning through visiting the workplace, or the Gemba for those of you who have taken our lean training. Going to the workplace and understanding what's really going on. Some other traditional leadership, it's about directing your staff, focusing on if only someone else would do something differently, right? That blaming again. It's about a thinking of, and traditional thinking was that only the leadership is really capable of solving the problem. So, you know, 10% of the organization is tasked with solving 90% of the problems. And that's really the way traditional organizations and traditional leadership went. And traditionally, people like to get things perfect before they start making a change. And as we know, perfect takes a long time to get to and is actually probably unattainable. So, you know, we need to change the way we think when we're looking to be leaders in an operationally excellent organization.
I'm just going to pause for a second. Absolutely. I just want to make sure we're recording this. Okay, good.
Okay.
I just had that little moment of like, oh my God, are we recording this? We should be recording this.
Yeah.
That's good. Go ahead, Derek.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, thanks for that. In operational excellence and leading an excellent organization, you want to experiment, right? You want to make small steps towards a solution. Let's try something now and see what happens and make it better and better as we go. And as Karen's been coaching us Neha and I, and and some of our other leaders, you know, you've got to set some targets and let's try doing something. It may not be perfect for now, but by doing something, you're at least moving the ball forward, right?
And I absolutely have to give credit to Mike Rother here, you know, in terms of the value for experimentation. Mike Rother is the author of the you know, Toyota Kata, which is an improvement model using experimentation. And his research has basically proven that it's so important to just develop a habit of experimentation, like just try something, because if you just do something, then you move forward. And Karen, that's your philosophy as well, right? Is the learning by doing. So just do something quick and see if it works out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. A couple key concepts here and that really tie into the huddle board idea is the listening to and understanding the perspectives of your staff, and also the one in the top right corner is using all the staff to help solve problems, not leaving that problem solving just to the people in the top end of the organization, right? And instead of looking at blame and looking at why didn't someone do this or why didn't someone do that, lean leaders really focus on what can I do or what could I have done differently? How can I help the situation, rather than looking at what others did or didn't do properly. So these are some of the key changes that need to happen within your leadership to support the journey of operational excellence. Oh,
Click.
there we go.
No.
Or not.
There you go.
Okay, so what is a huddle? We did a little bit of research by looking in the dictionary, and we found a dictionary definition of a huddle. And we found that a huddle is to gather or crowd together in a close mass. And we have a little picture up here from, where's this from, Neha? From Disney World?
It's from Disney World. It's from Epcot Center, and it's a clownfish huddle. So that's my cousin Ishika's fingernails there. But I had tweeted this a while ago because we were so into huddles, and I thought that was a cute little picture. It's a bunch of clownfish huddling together because they're actually feeding.
That's awesome. They're not discussing their problems?
They're not discussing their problems.
Okay.
Maybe they are, but I don't know.
It would be great if they were. I like the idea that they might be discussing their problems.
That's what we'll say. That's our story there. We'll stick to that.
So by saying that, there are lots of different types of huddles, different types of huddle boards. And as some of you have indicated, you have experience or have seen huddle boards. There are numerous different kinds of huddle boards. We tend to focus in one area, and we'll talk about what a PACE huddle board is all about, but we'd like to kind of show you some of the different types of huddle boards that you may or may not have experienced in different workplaces. So one of the types of huddle boards, and this is one that I'm very familiar with from my work in the mining industry, we used to have safety huddles. Every morning we would talk about safety issues, we would talk about incidents or accidents from the previous day, how they could have been prevented. In industry, the huddle focus often starts around safety and then moves into other areas. But this is definitely one area of huddling, and this can be done in hospitals as well. They use a lot of safety huddles around patient safety and discuss patient safety issues. So this is one type of huddle.
It's in any type of industrial environment,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, any environment it can be, for sure.
Just to go from there.
Yeah. So some safety huddles, they'll show number of incidents, accidents, descriptions. Oftentimes people will go through and do some quick root causes on what might have prevented an incident in the first place. But the other thing too is even groups who weren't involved in the incident can talk about these and see how these things may have applied to their department, or how the same type of accident could happen in their department and how they can prevent that. So that's often a key feature with these. Hospitals and healthcare organizations often have patient needs types of huddles. So again, brief meetings to talk about different patients and what's happening with patients' satisfaction, action plans for different patients, who's coming, who's going, things like that, kind of, you know, looking at the day and their patients or their clients and understanding what their needs are during the day, how they're going to address those. So that's a real popular one in the healthcare area. And you walk through a lot of the local hospitals, you'll see these types of huddle boards often up in the nursing stations. And then we get into communication and performance huddle boards. These are some that some of you might have familiarity with, and they really focus on performance metrics, communicating performance, where we're at, what our production was for the day before, the number of patients we served the day before or today, tomorrow, what our targets are, and how we can actually improve on those performance metrics. So these are often things that you will see in manufacturing organizations, some industry, and even mining. And they really focus around those performance indicators that are important and how to move the needle on some of those or what they can do differently.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, there's a lot of different types of huddles, and we're going to focus on what we kind of implement with most of our teams, where we tend to focus with our huddle boards and how we implement those.
Yeah.
Let Neha take that.
Awesome. So before I jump into it, I'll probably do a poll question around, what's my poll question? Suggestion box. So I'm just curious, how many organizations that are on the call actually have an employee suggestion box? I'm really curious if you guys actually have employee suggestion boxes. Let's see. Okay, so we have about, so far, most of the audience has voted, and we have 42% of you actually have a suggestion box, and 58% of you don't have a suggestion box. If you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to keep the poll open for a little bit longer. For those of you who said yes, could you just type in the questions window a note to us in terms of, do you feel it's working well, or what are your typical challenges of having an employee suggestion box currently? I'm curious about that in terms of how it's going, what you love about it, what you maybe would like different about it, if you have that opportunity. So it's the questions window on your right-hand side that you could put that into.
What I'm glad to see here is nobody voted, I'm not even sure. So that's a good thing, generally speaking. You either know you do or you know you don't.
That's right.
I think
it's a good thing that if you know you do, it's a good thing, because it means someone's looking at it. That's really, so somebody just put a note in there, and we'll say our box is not being used. I'm not going to say who's saying what, but we'll just sort of kind of put it in. There's a box that's always empty, and someone's box is not being used. It's interesting that both individuals that responded, similar situation, right? It's not being used or sitting empty, same thing. And really, there's a lot of challenges to your traditional employee suggestion box. So what the PACE Huddle actually does is it's basically gives you a mechanism for getting employees engaged and involved, and really keeping the employee suggestion box current. So not just keeping an employee suggestion box, but making it more current. So what a PACE Huddle actually is, this is the definition of a PACE Huddle, it's a tool for operational excellence that enhances employee engagement by promoting a culture of discussing daily improvements, challenges, and celebrating success. And that's really the three big things that a PACE Huddle board actually does. And this little picture here, I have to give credit to this, that cake that you see at the bottom left corner. It looks delicious. If I'm making you hungry, I'm sorry. But it's from the Horn Pain Hospital. I don't know if everybody knows where Horn Pain is, but we were just meeting with some people yesterday from Horn Pain. And they actually, when they launched their huddle board, they had a nice little cake. So when, that was their launch cake. So I just thought that was really cool to be able to put that there. So the three goals of the huddle boards that we implement at PACE, 1 is better teamwork, 2 is improved communication, and 3 is solving problems before they become major issues. Now, we're in the, I love the work that we do because we're in the improvement world. And, you know, the way we used to do our green belt is we would say, oh, you know, you got to come and pick a project idea and work on this project. But oftentimes those project ideas, when you think about it, at the beginning part of it, if you had just solved the problem, like if you had just solved the problem. So Roxanne, if you don't mind, I'll use your example from Monarch Recovery Services, because Roxanne eliminated a parenting program waitlist within 2 weeks of implementation using the lean tools. But we talked about it and reflected about it later, and we said, you know, what if we had an ongoing way to discuss challenges? So within 2 months of having a wait list, like, you know, even one person going on the wait list, you would go, wow, this is abnormal. We don't ever have a wait list. Why are we having a wait list? Do we need to rejig the way we do our work, right? So that's the whole point of having ongoing communication with your team. So at PACE, we've defined 3 different levels of huddle boards. Level 1 is a just do it. So you just kind of, it's building the habit of people showing up, discussing their problems. I know we don't like the word problems, but it's what it is. And kind of building that habit of trust and going from there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Level 2 and level 3, we won't really touch on in great detail today, but really level 2 is not everything is a just do it. You can't just do everything. So level 2 is sort of how do you prioritize and focus on the bigger picture items. And level 3 is about metric-focused huddle boards. Now you might say to me, well, why don't we focus on metrics right off the bat? Why are we doing all these 3 levels? It's really, really important to crawl before you walk, right? So you can't just, you know, launch a big campaign and kind of go, oh yeah, we're just going to start tracking our metrics and that's really what we're going to do. The whole point of implementing a huddle is to really get employees engaged, right? So it's about giving them some sense of control back, which they already have, but they just don't know they have. And I'll show you what I mean. So a level 1 huddle board, if you were to implement a level 1 huddle board, and that's what our initial course is going to be focused on, is the level 1 huddle board. The success criteria really is building the habit, right? So it's about building the habit of people showing up, discussing problems, issues, challenges, and successes in a structured manner. So it's a very, very structured way of implementing a huddle. The second success criteria is developing a sense of trust and empowering employees to just do it. If it meets the organization's or department's just do it criteria, right? So as I put these 2 up there, I do want to take the time to acknowledge that not everybody's comfortable, you know, using the word problems, right? We know that in North America we have an aversion to the word problems. If our senseis from Japan were here, or Karen were here, we talk about that. But as Derek came up with this one, we have to like patent it in Derek's name, right? Yeah,
we were. I was doing a training session with a group yesterday, and we were talking about problems and loving, you know, the leadership habit of loving your problems and seeing your problems as a good thing. And, you know, I said a lot of the organizations that we've talked to in the past have said, oh, we don't like talking about problems. You know, it sounds like such a negative thing. We really like to focus on the word, you know, opportunities. We like to think of things as opportunities. And I said yesterday, yeah, they're an opportunity to solve a problem. So come on, let's really face it. There's a problem underlying the opportunity.
Absolutely, and I think that's a tweetable. We should tweet that out. I think that's 140 characters for sure. So the key features of a level 1 huddle is it's very tight. It's between 10 to 15 minutes in length. It's the same time. Ideally each day, if you can do it. If you run multiple shifts, you do it twice a day to accommodate 2 different shifts. And but it's the same time. It's consistent. So some of the workplaces we've implemented this at minimum, we do it twice a week. So and you know, I love the negotiation of how often you should huddle, right? Because when we implement a huddle in the beginning, it's an add-on to your day-to-day, right? You say, well, no, we don't have time to do that. And I remember sitting in this room and one of the admins was saying, well, no, like, you know, once a week is too much. Like, I don't have time for that. And I said, well, we have to do it twice a week, so we'll see. And by the end of the 2-hour session, the admin had put in a an improvement idea for something that they care about. And then we realized, I said to her, do you see why you want people to meet more often? Because if you didn't meet more often, things just don't get done as quickly, right? These are little things that you can easily do. So it's about getting those things done quickly. And it's funny how the mental shift just happens when they see their ideas on there and go, really? Someone's actually going to deal with that? Yeah, someone needs to deal with that. Like, things are actually going to happen. Same meeting place, so try not to have it in different meeting places. I know Greater Sudbury Police Services, what you guys are thinking there, because it is, you guys are not co-located always, right? So it's very far spread apart. We're not going to cover the whole spread apart distances and the huddle piece now, but we will have another session specifically to teams that are spread apart, because we have paramedic services, we have different satellite offices and things like that. We'll want to make sure that we could do this for as well. It should be attended by the whole team, at least the teams that are not taking care of patients crashing and, you know, doing really urgent things. We try, one of the rules we try to implement is that, you know, don't schedule any meetings during huddle times if you can avoid it at all, so that it's an important thing that you want to see happen on a regular basis. We haven't really implemented a mandatory huddle at any of our workplaces yet, because it's a test, right? It's a test to see, you know, how does your organization organically, what's the type of attendance we see when we organically do something like this. And very important, it can be led by any one person. And what I mean by any one person, I mean any person that shows up. So today it could be led by Joanna, tomorrow it could be led by Derek, the day after it could be led by me. Managers don't have to be at the huddle. It's not something that's mandatory that you should be there. You would like to really be there because you get to learn a lot about your team, and it really helps with team development. But this is strictly, like, level 1 huddles is strictly about you know, just do it improvement ideas that get implemented quickly. And if it's not a just do it, it goes into a different flow. It goes into a different stream of information, like a different pathway that it takes. So, and it definitely has improvement ideas on forms. So we did have one workplace where they said, oh, we'll do whiteboards and we'll just sort of write it down and then we'll delete it. And we're like, no, you kind of need to track those, because they're, because when you get into the discipline of tracking your information on these forms, you actually have a record of all the experiments you've done. Like, what have you already tried that worked or didn't work, right? And you go from there. So why do you need, so actually I'm going to pause here for a second, because I'm going to just ask a poll question about what is your biggest fear in implementing a huddle board. Because I've talked to this point, because I see a lot of anxiety in people when we talk about huddle boards, and we've talked about them enough to know that there is some anxiety in terms of, you know, fears for implementing huddle boards. So I'm just curious about what are people thinking right now. Maybe I'll be completely wrong and surprised, but
view will not stay open on
no
the question.
There we go. How do we prioritize what we work on? Overwhelming list of ideas. I love that 44% says all of the above.
All of the above. Strong majority for all of the above.
Strong majority for all of the above. A fantastic engagement. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad that you know. So we have about 74% of the room that has voted, and so I didn't have an option in there of no anxiety at all. So I'm going to assume maybe 10% of you are like, no, it's all good. We got this covered. So I'm going to acknowledge that before I sort of move on, and we'll close the polls. So basically, it's completely normal to have that reaction. Like the reason we had those options in there, like the overwhelming list of ideas, right? So I want to take the time right now quickly to talk about, no, I won't talk about this right now. I'm going to put a pin in it actually, because I do have a point where I do talk about sort of what we do to mitigate those pieces. So let's go to the next one. So why you need to implement a huddle board? First of all, it's for frontline engagement. So really the title of our webinar is Huddling for Employee Engagement. And it's a fantastic, you know, really hands down the best tool you could really have to engage your employees. Because in traditional organizations, which a lot of us belong to, it's just part of the culture, right? It's not part of the culture. Like, we want to engage them, and we do try to engage them, and, you know, we do our best. But really, without a discipline that's built into the organization, I hope you're proud of me, Karen, because I'm learning, right? Do you like that? The discipline. I'm doing the coaching.
A fabulous job.
There you go. So without the discipline built into the organization on doing it consistently, regularly, on a consistent basis, communication doesn't actually happen. So you might say, well, I'm very consistent with, you know, my team meetings, and I'm very consistent with this. But really, try to put yourself in the shoes of that new person that starts, and they just curious, like, oh, why are we doing something this way? And they have no one else to talk to other than that one person, and they say, oh, why are we doing it that way? Oh, because we've always done it that way. Oh, okay. Continue on your work. So we want to try and break that paradigm, right? So it's about getting people together on a regular, consistent basis and saying it's okay to talk about things that are not working for you, right? It's about effective and timely communication. Doesn't matter which organization we've gone into, a big feedback that comes back in terms of what can we improve in the organization is communication. So I can keep my eyes closed, I could do a quick little survey in your organization, and guaranteed I will have communication as one of the top 2 things to improve in your organization, if not the top 1, right? Because I don't know what other challenges your organization has. It alleviates the indecision, right? So what we mean by that is sometimes, you know, I'm thinking, well, you know, it would be really nice if I could just move that that sharpener that nobody else uses, if I could just move it close to here, you know, so I don't have to travel all the time when I sharpen my pencils. And, you know, but they're thinking, well, I don't think I could really do that. Like, I'd have to ask someone for it. And maybe if I ask one person and they discourage me, maybe I don't go and ask another person. So if you're sitting there in anxiety and indecision, one of the huddle board ideas that came up, you know, just talking about alleviating anxiety, is there was some departmental shift that was happening. And there was a person, say it was Neha. Neha thought, oh my God, I'm going to have all this added workload on my plate, and obviously I'm not getting compensated anymore. How am I going to deal with it? And they were going to do the one-on-one discussion with their manager, which is the traditional thing to do, and it works really well, I'm sure, if you're a good manager and you respond. But at the end of the day, one person comes, talks to you about their challenge, you've got 1,500 other things to look at. Where does that fall into the big picture, right? So this one person actually brought that up as a huddle question to say, oh my God, you know, we have, I really have to, like, I'm curious about this workload thing, I'm kind of stressed about it. And they brought it up at the huddle, and the magic about bringing it up at the huddle is their coworker said, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter if you get compensated more or not for, like, doing this additional work. We're going to help you. Like, we need to help each other. And the coworkers came up with ideas to help this person out. And you didn't really need, you know, the manager can obviously sign off on it or whatever, but it was just something that you just bring up, and you get a really fresh perspective from people as you go on. It definitely replaces the suggestion box. So you don't need a suggestion box if you have a huddle implemented. It actually replaces a lot more than the suggestion box. So when we implement huddles, you know, it's not just an extra 10 to 15 minutes a day that you have to take out of your schedule. That's not what this is about. It really is about replacing those old silly meetings that you just go to on a regular basis, whether it's weekly or monthly, that are really pointless. right? There's no decisions being made necessarily, or there are some decisions being made and you're being told about those decisions. You don't really get the input from the front line, right? So it really is about turning the triangle. So when I talk about the triangle, this is, I don't have a slide for it, so I'm just going to draw it over here. Oh, that's not dark enough. There we go. So when I talk about the triangle, this is your organizational pyramid, and this is here. This is the senior leadership, right? And then over here we have management, and down here you have your front line. And as my father-in-law would say, this is NTS, which means not to stale. So you may actually have 80% of your organization as frontline staff, you know, and about 20% management and senior management. And what happens today is most of the problem solving happens up here. This is where problem solving is happening, right? I'm not sure if everybody can see this really well, but the problem solving is happening up there. But really, at the end of the day, who's most connected with your frontline staff? If you really, no, not with your frontline staff, with your staff, with your customers, right? It's not these guys up here, it's these guys down here. So they actually understand the day-to-day challenges that your customers are facing. They see where the opportunities for improvements are better than everybody else. Yet decision-making goes all the way up there to happen. And I have a really good example that I'll share with you that really hits this point home, right? So it's to alleviate the anxiety of, you know, the overwhelming list of ideas. Let me tell you, if you see the different sections on the Huddle board there, I know you can't see the details, but if you see the different sections of the Huddle boards, you can see that each section has limited space. So you will not have an overwhelming list of ideas because you can only work on 2 ideas per section at a time. And you will not put a new idea on there until you actually work on those 2 ideas per section. How it works is over here, your employees are completing a form to submit a suggestion for improvement, and as you're making those improvements, then you're sort of just filling up those pieces. So you're not going to have an overwhelming list of ideas. Let me convince you on that. The second question about how do we prioritize what to work on? When it's a just do it, when it's something that you just need to quickly improve in your workplace, and when I keep saying just do it, I want to alleviate that anxiety of how we define a just do it. It's part of the course, right? Every organization has a different just do it criteria. So part of the course is that we're going to actually walk you through how you come up with your own just do it criteria and how you actually test that criteria out. All right? So if it is just a just do it, which means you don't need anyone's approval, signature, nothing to do it, then you basically, that's a one-off. So it's a one-by-one. How you prioritize is the first in, first out. Yeah, something might be more valuable than something else, but you know what? At this point, success is that you have people trusting that their ideas are being listened to. It's not about judging that someone's idea is better than another idea. It's just about building that level of trust and the discipline of people showing up to a huddle and making that change happen, right? And then, I feel like I'm taking up all the space here, Derek. I don't know if you can hear.
I got edged out a little bit. That's okay.
And then, so that's the other piece. What to do when people disagree on a next step. It's a fantastic problem. So here's another example of the Huddle boards where the just do it's are, you know, in terms of where the issues and suggestions are. What are you doing in terms of what's possible? What can you implement? What do you want to challenge and what do you want to kibosh? So absolutely, things do get kiboshed at huddles as well. And it's not because we judge the idea as silly. That is not why they get kiboshed. They just get kiboshed because the group doesn't agree. So you kind of bring up an idea for discussion and we say, oh, what does everybody else think? And you might get, you know, 2 things. You might get silence because we don't want to offend Derek and his idea, right? Or you might get, oh, we don't really agree with it, which is an easy kibosh. But if the group has just silence, you can actually put it under the under review section. So here you see the under review section, right? You can just put it up under review, and it has a signature section on it. So Derek has the authority. Even if people say, oh, I don't agree with it, Derek says, you know what, I'm going to put it under review because there might be other people walking by that are not at my huddle today that might support my idea, right? If it doesn't get support signatures, it gets kiboshed. So a huddle is a very democratic process, especially when it comes to the just do it. When you talk about prioritizing what to work on the bigger picture items, right, that's the level 2 huddle. For you to be able to prioritize what to work on the bigger picture items, it's about understanding your organization's goals. So understanding your organization's goals and priorities. So they really need to be very, very well set out in terms of, you know, this is where the organization wants to go, and this is the big picture idea that came up, right? And you define the effort and the impact. So the effort might be in your organization more than 4 hours, say, of effort. That's not a just do it. That's a little bit more effort required on that. So it'll be a bigger picture item. And then the impact is how well does it move you to where your organization wants to go. So that's, and the prioritizing for that is about the just do it huddle. So what's wrong with the way things are currently done? I love, this is my favorite slide, right? Because here's a simple example day to day. Frontline employee to frontline employee says, hey, think we can get a cart? Because I think a cart will really make my life easier, right? And then they go and they talk to another person, and this person's like, I don't know, let me go ask someone else. Do you think we can get a cart? And then it's the third interaction, they go to their manager and they're like, hey, so-and-so wants a cart. Do you think we can get a cart? And then the manager goes to the other manager, the other employee's manager, and says, do you think we could get a cart? That's the fourth interaction so far. Then you have about interaction number 5 for, you know, the manager asking the other employees, not the employee that made the request, but the other ones, do you think that they could get a cart? Do you think that's possible? Number 6 says, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Let's get a cart. Like, you know, let's do it. Let's do this. And then the manager says, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. She says to the other manager, okay, let's get a cart. Then the manager goes down to the employee that originally, you know, got the request for the cart and says, yeah, let's do that. They go back to the original one, the 10th interaction. Whew, there we go. We finally have a cart, right? So when we implement huddles, right, a lot of organizations say, oh, we have great teamwork. Like we're such a good team, right? We really don't need a huddle. It's okay if you're a good team. It's okay if you don't have communication problems. That is a communication problem, right? Because in the future state, when you go to a huddle board and you put up a, hey, I think it might be a good idea to get a cart, your coworkers are right there. They give you the thumbs up, right? Two-step process. And then you have, you know, the folks saying, okay, we're going to go ask this manager for a cart.
Yeah. The authority's inherent right there to go and get it because the group agreed.
Yeah, exactly. A cart is just a cart. They know there's a cart lying around. They said, just do it. So if you're unconvinced because you have a really good organizational culture, because you already have good teamwork, this is a very simple idea of why you need a huddle board, right? It just streamlines decision making so quickly. And not many of our huddles last more than 10 minutes. Like we have a 15-minute window, but not many of them actually last more than 10 minutes. So I am running a little low on time, so I'm going to skip over the examples, but I'll just use the parking lot examples from yesterday. So we're in this venue where we're doing our training session, and the process is that you have to come and register at the front desk for a ticket to put in your car window so people can tell that you're okay to park there. And so I asked the frontline person, I said, and as she hands me that ticket thing, she says, sorry. And I say, how often do you say sorry when you're handing that ticket, right?
Because you come in, you get the ticket, come all the way from the parking lot in, get your parking pass, got to go all the way back out to your car, put it in your car, and then come back in to do whatever you're going to do.
That's right.
So she apologizes every single time.
Every single time she apologizes. And so I asked her, I said, have you tried, like, you know, maybe doing a list, like different solutions in terms of not needing to have to say sorry every time because she's saying sorry. And if you think about put yourself in her shoes, That's just part of her job. She has no huddle board. She has no place to say, hey, maybe we should change this. And she did try and do that. So she says, you know, I did kind of bring it up, but the security guard, like, it's easier for him to just look in all the cars instead of you know, having to do some kind of list or something like that when it gets really busy. And then I said, you know, if this was a huddle idea that got brought up, how many people would stand there and good common sense dictate that, you know what, it's okay to retrain one person for the sake of hundreds of your customers, right? That's a very simple example, right, of just an idea that like a little thing that would come up at a huddle in terms of let's just change the process. And you know that one person will need some training time and developing time, but you know you're gonna save a lot of effort from 100 other people. So the level 2 huddle boards are really about big ideas and prioritizing. So if you want to like do a full reorganization of a workplace, this is like an underground mine that we're looking at. You know, that's one thing that you could do is for level 1. If you want to reorganize like your whole toolkit or things like that, and on the level 2, you're only focusing on big picture, big priority items, and that's where it's tying into your organizational goals and doing the prioritization. So we're not going to go over the level 2 stuff this time around, but that's part of the level 2 huddle board.
You're essentially adding that second stream to your ideas that come up that fall into the bigger picture sort of projects or much more involved piece of work and how you prioritize that. So
exactly. So level 2 essentially is not a full course per se. It's like a couple sessions that we'll do for the level 2 course, which is, it basically is defining your organization's priority criteria and then assessing each bigger picture idea against that to see what you should or should not do. So it's your effort impact matrix that we designed custom for you. Level 3 huddle boards are actually metric focused huddles. So they're very much about tracking your data. And the reason I put metric focused huddles as level 3 and not right at level 1 is because most organizations don't have very clear, not just they don't have very clear goals and metrics that they want to reach, which is the lagging metrics, but managers need to get into the habit of learning how they can encourage their employees to do things on a daily basis that are going to improve those bigger metrics. And it takes some coaching time. So that's the other piece in terms of the metric focused huddles. So today's challenges that really we already talked about in terms of how a huddle really helps. And you know, when you go through the course, it'll help you download your thoughts and to do a checklist. It'll help your frontline staff know what they have permission to do or not do. It'll help create a less overwhelming version of a suggestion box and communicate to frontline staff what it is that you want them to do. So in general, here's the course outline in terms of what are the pieces that you need to take care of. If you don't want to attend the course, here, take a note of this slide, right? Because that is definitely the pieces that you need to make sure you do before you move forward with implementing a huddle, right? Pre-launch, you want to understand, like we need to help you understand the critical behaviors that you need to have, right? Because it starts with behaviors. It's nothing worse than you implementing a huddle. And then, you know, when there's some people that say, what if there are silly ideas presented and then somebody brings up what you think is a silly idea and then you do this. You don't say anything. You were supportive, but you went, what is that? Rolling your eyes, right?
Yeah.
So just simple things like that. So it's helping you understand the critical behaviors that you need to make sure you have before you jump into it. Will help you design your Just Do It checklist. Decide on the frequency, who should attend, how to determine the huddle board's metrics. So we actually have a full metrics, a full dashboard of huddle boards because we have about, I think we have about over 60 huddle boards implemented so far, and we have metrics for an organization. So in an organization, you may have between 10 to 15 huddle boards implemented. That's usually how it goes.
Depends on the size.
It depends, yeah, it depends on the size. It really depends on the size, but sometimes we, integrate departments for the huddle board piece. Then we have support during the coaching and the implementation. So during the implementation, so after 4 weeks, you'll actually launch the huddle board And during the launch phase is when you need a lot of support and a lot of not hand holding, but a lot of holding your heart and going, oh my God, it was the worst. And we're like, really? Did you think your culture was going to change the first time you launch your huddle? No, it's not going to change. So it's about you not getting disheartened, right? So we're there with you. We're helping you see what's normal, what's not normal, how you mitigate specific challenges. And after the launch, we help you with the ongoing monitoring and assessment. So you have your own assessments. We have very specific leadership behaviors that you need at every level as you're going through, and understanding where you are versus where you need to be. So if you guys want to attend the Huddle Board course, I think this video will be available to you till about July 15th or July 10th or something like that. And we have 2 different courses sort of scheduled for different start times. We have a July date and we have a September date as we go through. So how it works is it's a $1,000 fee per organization. It's more of a per department per se, because we'll talk about one huddle board for that $1,000, and you might have like a few other people join in, and you could just test out how you do one board and have other managers join in to see how that one board went, and then continue doing them on your own. And it's an additional $100 for everybody to attend. And those are your discount codes that are up on the screen. I'll just leave them up on the screen for you guys. They won't expire like at the end of June, because we want to see how many people are registering before we actually,
Yeah, we're testing the water. People always tell us that, oh, you don't want to offer training during the summer because nobody will attend, but we don't necessarily believe that. So we're testing that theory to see if people do want to do some training.
So somebody asked us if they'll have access to the PowerPoint presentation as a printout option. Sorry, we won't be distributing the PowerPoint itself. We will be distributing the video for a limited period of time, because what's going to happen, Jacqueline, is we're going to be putting this into our vault. So our students who take our Greenbelt course have access to this community of practice, and we just sort of put that in the vault, the community of practice. So if you take the course or something like that, you'll have access to all of our materials, all of our tools. But in this case, we're not distributing the PowerPoint very widely. I don't see the graphic you're referring to.
It's a while back, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think
which screen that was.
Exactly. So one part of the huddle, normally a single day, is focused on problems identified by staff, where up to 3 are being worked at a given time. Shows what they're doing currently. Current status, any assistance they need. Some are very active, some are pretty quiet. That is very normal, Steve, is having huddles in different locations. But I'm just opening the floor up for any questions that you may have, because we're here to answer any questions. Just going to go to the... And actually, Joanna will send you the discount codes in your email, in your post follow-up email, so you will have the discount codes there. But we are here for any more questions in terms of why you need one. I didn't answer, I did get a call. I didn't answer the question about what to do if there are silly ideas presented, or what to do if people disagree on the next step, right? So let me tell you this. There really are no silly ideas. The one rule of putting in a huddle idea is you absolutely have to sign your name on that particular form. There's no blank submissions allowed. If you don't take accountability, personal accountability for your idea being submitted, you just simply are not allowed a voice at the huddle board. It's as simple as that. It's very much an open and transparent process. So if somebody has taken the time to put their name on a form with an idea written on it, right? And I know we're human beings, and we may judge the idea as silly, or we may say, well, there's a better venue for it. I think because trust building is the #1 thing that we're trying to implement, we owe it to our staff, not just the staff that's presenting that idea, but to the other staff who haven't come up with an idea yet, to show them that it's okay to bring up an idea, and ideas are welcome, right? Oftentimes huddle boards really get, discouraged because sometimes we might mock an idea or think it's silly, but really it's not about having silly or not silly ideas. It's about having ideas in general. And first, we don't go for quality, we go for quantity. We go for discipline of people showing up and doing something about it. Second, so when we get to level 2 and we focus on your metrics, we go to the huddles and things like that. So that's where we go to next.
The other thing I just want to add with the ideas, right? They're people's ideas, and especially when you talk about improvement ideas and you voice it that way, a lot of times people will bring up a solution that they have. They'll talk about, well, I think we should do this, and other people may say, well, why would you want to do that? And sometimes that discussion is really good discussion, because that idea or the solution that they presented may not be the best solution, but by talking about it, you may get down to what problem you're actually trying to solve, and then other solutions may come up, and then there may be agreement on what the right solution is, even if the solution presented may not have support. There may be other solutions to solve that problem that might get presented, and you all decide on a better course of action to take.
Exactly, and that's what the course really is about, right, is to be able to get ready for those types of situations. The other piece is, what to do when people disagree on a next step. It's a brilliant question. What do you do when people disagree? First of all, you got to take it as the best thing that ever happened was someone disagreeing and someone coming up with a different opinion. Because in our workplace, Derek is always the person that has the risk management background, where he's like, well, what if that went wrong, or what if that went wrong? And I'm the optimist, and I'm like, no, I think everything's going to go fine. So when we talk about having that person that says, well, what if that didn't work out? It's a good thing, because that's what your pilot stage is there for. So the pilot section of your huddle board is very much about helping people understand what if, what if it actually went wrong? Helping people understand that, is it actually going to go, wrong? Maybe, maybe not. So you acknowledge both parties or multiple parties to say, okay, you're saying this is why it wouldn't work. Let's experiment with it. Let's test it out. Let's see how it goes. So that's pretty much what we would do. So I just have the room open for questions. I'm not sure if we have any questions coming in. So we don't have many questions coming in, and our email addresses are just right on the screen there. You can absolutely feel free to send us a quick email. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be talking to you again soon anyways. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day and attending, and really appreciate the engagement and the attendance and the contribution that you're adding to it and helping us fulfill our mission, really.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thanks very much. Have a great day, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Bye,
Bye, Karen.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.